are some of the most common things you see going wrong in accounts when you're auditing?
Oh God. God, we'll be here for a long time. Um, the most important thing is people, even maybe other agencies, when we do audits, we tend to see more of like a set it and forget it mentality, especially when it comes to like customer journeys and flows and stuff like that. People just kind of build it and leave it, and it is what it is, and it doesn't do any better. And so we see this all the time, but like when we do audits on accounts, even, 7-figure a month, maybe even some stores doing, even more, where there's no history of split tests in the entire account, which is mind boggling. And so when you do that, as you know, just from running ads, it's the same methodology that we do, right? If you never test, you never have an opportunity to improve the numbers. They're just going to stay where they are, and eventually they're just going to start declining. Right. Same thing with emails, like on the ads. The ads will eventually, you'll wake up tomorrow morning and your Facebook ads won't convert anymore. And you're like, what the fuck? Same thing for us. So that's a huge thing. I would say probably in about 95% of the stores we audit, maybe 99%, there's not one history of any split tests.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, and I understand it's a lot of work. Agency wise, it's a lot of work. And when you're the model of your agency is to basically outsource fulfillment and remove yourself from the agency, like
being taught, be a sales rep.
Yeah, like build a big sales team, outsource your fulfillment as cheaply as possible, and make your agency profits as big as possible. Like the stuff that people are being taught in the agency space.
Yeah,
it doesn't. It's conflicting on that type of stuff. So. That encourages like a small amount of work in that type of mindset. So for us, we know it's a lot of work, but we try to over deliver and really try to set ourselves apart from everybody else. And it's sometimes that's hard when you're doing, if you look at it, right, like you do ads, other agencies do ads. How do you really set yourself apart?
Yeah.
Same thing for us. We do email and SMS. Other agencies do email and SMS. What do we do differently? And so we're always looking at that and trying to, figure that out. So that's the first thing. The second thing is really incomplete customer journeys. So, you might have like bits and pieces of it kind of set up, but the whole complete customer journey from A to Z is not really, well thought out or done. And that's a huge one. And then the third thing I think is just more of like a generic type of messaging versus really personalized experiences. So I would say like those are the three biggest things that I would notice.
And when you say customer journeys, are you speaking more so on automated flows or? Okay.
Yeah, the flows. Because the whole point of the flows is really to encompass an entire customer journey, right? From, somebody that's curious and opting in to somebody that's abandoning a cart, somebody that's browsing, buying, etc.
Okay. How many flows do you generally see being good in an account? And I realize every business is different. They all have different needs. We're not speaking total generalities here.
Yeah, I mean, every brand is different. Obviously, it depends on what you do. If you're more subscription focused, obviously you're going to have more, type of flows that are geared towards that.
Mm-hmm.
It really depends on the technology that you use for your cart. So, for example, Shopify has a lot more ability to do different things than, for example, WooCommerce or BigCommerce or Magento. So it really depends. I would say somewhere between like 6 to 9 flows for a typical store. And then that's like the basic level, and then you can kind of build from there. So the imagination is your only limit. Klaviyo has predictive analytics built into it. And so you can use that data to trigger other flows, right? Like when they're going to churn, when they're likely to buy, et cetera. So, you can do that type of stuff as well. That's more like on the advanced side. But, you can just add that into the mix.
Yeah. And, I think a good mindset thing to look at is where you were talking about not setting it, forgetting it. We see the same thing in the Facebook ad world. People may be testing 1 or 2 ads a month in a account that's spending 20, 40 grand a month on ads, where in reality, you should be testing, 5 to 10 ads per week. What mindset shift could people have when it comes to A/B testing for email, at least from the accounts that you've been in and that you've worked in?
I think a lot of it comes down to really understanding from like a strategic point of view, how to set up the tests and why. There's been some occasions where we've seen tests, actually done, which was a great thing. But when you dive in deeper, there's the logic for the tests and the flow that it was for just didn't really match up. And so it really wasn't well thought out. And that's why the results from the test were really like nothing. And so it's really important to think out really strategically, what's the goal for this flow? What do I want? What's the end result that I want to happen from this flow? What's the process, right? And really work it backwards, from there.
And on the Facebook ad side, we normally look at like total amount of spend towards an ad versus purchases or CPA to understand if there's viability with it, and don't necessarily test on a time scale, but more so on a spend scale. How are you qualifying or validating tests, and like when you cut them or when you decide to let them run for a little bit longer?
We're using Klaviyo's system. They have very, very advanced analytics,
Okay.
predictive analytics in there. So on the flows, it's a different cadence of testing than on, when you send a campaign, because every flow will typically be the same email. For example, if you and I both saw the same product, we both saw these Neura headphones, and we both added them to the cart, the same product model, and we both abandoned the cart, we're going to get the same exact abandoned cart email. Now, on the flip side, if we signed up to Neura's email list, and now they sent us an email campaign today, Wednesday, and Friday, all three of those emails are totally different. And so if you tested each one of them separately with a separate test, you're going to get completely different data across the board. So we tend to do that more like a 30-day cycle. So we test the same thing on the campaigns for like 30 days because every email is so different. And that way, more time gives you more consistent data for that type of stuff.
Gotcha. And I know you said one of the big problems you see in accounts is generic messaging, which opposite of that, personalized messaging. Where are you going with that? Like, what do you see working best for personalized messaging, or what does that look like?
If split testing was a lot of work for agencies to do, this is going to be like 10x that.
Yeah.
To use the famous term. For us, typically, it takes about 3 to 6 months of work to set up the whole personalization thing inside of a typical store. 3 to 6 months, obviously, that depends on the type of store, how complex, so on and so forth. So it's a lot of work, and it's very, very granular. It's really taking in every single data point that we have within Attentive or within Klaviyo, and using that to trigger flows, trigger campaigns, predictive analytics, all these different data points that we have within Klaviyo, and we use those to start triggering everything. Same thing with Attentive, really showing personalized pop-ups and personalized messaging, based on people coming back to the store, right? Like if somebody came back let's use this Neura thing again. If I came back to Neura like 5 times and I haven't added it to cart, maybe we should speak differently to me than to you, who's never been to the site yet, right? Like maybe there's an objection that you haven't covered on the, so we can speak to people differently, show them different pop-ups, for example, based on their intent and based on how many times they've, come to the site and stuff like that. That is really powerful, right? The more you can personalize your messaging, and your experience across the board, the higher the response rate gets.
And I imagine that has a huge play in LTV, and especially for subscription businesses, keeping people from dropping off.
Yeah, I mean, with that type of stuff, you really have to look at the numbers. Obviously I'm preaching to the choir, like that's all we do is look at the numbers, right? But it's really about looking at the numbers and seeing where there's a drop off, what month that is, and then really brainstorming ways to mitigate that and to extend that, right? How do we extend that for 1 month? How can we extend that for 2 months, 3 months, so on and so forth? There's different strategies that you can do with that, but that's really the goal, is really just to extend it out 1 more month. How do we extend it out 1 more month past that, right? And so those type of things are huge. And it could be a matter of cross-sells, upsells, maybe getting somebody off continuity and just giving them like a lump, bundle product or whatever it is. There's just different ways to do it.
Yeah. And, the term best practice, I think a best practice is that sometimes there is no best practice, but I'll kind of translate it from Facebook ads and then ask you, in the Facebook ad world, people are moving towards going super broad with audiences and focusing on, creative as the main driver. And we're using our creative and our copy for targeting in ads now. That's a strategy. There's other people that are, still focusing on narrow audiences and driving super defined audiences to the website. On your end, in email marketing, in the email world, is there strategies that you feel like you're doing that other email marketers are not doing?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. I mean, to be honest, I really don't pay attention to what anybody else is doing. I'm just completely focused on what we're doing. So, I might say something and somebody else might be doing it, but from what we see, number one, the level of split testing and optimization that we do, I just don't see, like I said, 90, 95, 98% of the agencies doing that. And then the level of personalization, that we do, like I said, that's like a 3 to 6 month project alone, on top of split testing and sending campaigns and stuff like that. So, that's a huge one. And it's a lot of work. I mean, for us, it's a ton of work, like I said, 3 to 6 months, 4, 5, 6 months worth of work. So those are two big things, I think. I forgot exactly ask me your question again, because I lost track when I was going through my thing.
Getting the side of the mind of Dave, understanding any strategies you're doing for email that you feel like you don't normally see running in accounts when you pick them up.
Yeah, I think, obviously split testing, personalization. Believe it or not, we don't see a lot of SMS, even still, which is really crazy. A lot of stores don't do SMS. Maybe they don't understand it yet, or they haven't heard of it, or they just maybe heard of it but didn't know anything about it. For us, obviously, we're a retention agency, so that's a huge thing for us. But we're always looking for what's next. For like right now, we're looking at WhatsApp stuff, ManyChat stuff. We're looking to see what other channels for retention that we could offer to add into the mix. Like a few years ago when we started, it was, Messenger. Messenger was the whole thing. Like abandoned cart, Facebook Messenger, abandoned cart apps. That was like the hottest thing. And then look what happens. Facebook gets crazy with their rules. They start charging for Messenger. That goes to shit. And then look what happens. SMS rises. And it's super, super profitable for stores.
Have you seen any updates on Apple's always on screen, looking at putting them using that as ad space? Do you see any opportunity there in the future, or is that kind of just still up in the air?
I haven't seen anything about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about that. There's always going to be changes that come inside of the industry, whether it's internally in the business or, externally from, Google, Facebook, whatever it is. We're in the internet business, so things are always going to change. And sometimes things change very rapidly, like what you're seeing right now with the whole AI and Chat GPT thing. This is probably like a once in 10 or 20 year type of situation. And things at this point, you're seeing like 5 years of acceleration in like a few months right now. And so this is what happens. I've been on the internet doing this stuff for almost 20 years. So, it happens. It's a cycle.
Yeah, one thing we're seeing in the paid ad space, Google ads, Facebook ads, TikTok ads, is the platforms are moving towards running the campaigns for you. So you're mainly just focused on the actual marketing piece, which is the messaging and the creative. I know you shared predictive analysis with Klaviyo, but do you see any sort of disruption to where with Facebook ads, I think those are great potential in the next, 2 to 3 years. You won't necessarily need a media buyer. More so, you'll need a creative strategist for paid ads.
Yeah, I think you'll need somebody or you'll need some type of tool or AI that has that media buyer's knowledge programmed in. So it's programmed in. So I can't necessarily say that the media buying is going to die. It's going to evolve like anything, and I think some people are still going to use human people. Just like, I went to go visit a potential client up in New York. I'm in Miami, and they were insistent on meeting in person. Old school. There's going to be a percentage of people that are like that are old school, that want to do that. Most of them don't. They'll just do it through a Zoom or something like that. So, it just evolves everything. I really see Like you said, those strategies, for example, being, turned into like a custom app or a custom AI. So it really, that AI is running your methodology, and that's what differentiates, that system from another system. So it's essentially turning your knowledge here into the AI and the tool to do it for you. And then maybe you'll charge a monthly subscription for that tool, and you have obviously more a broader customer base, lower amount, broader customer base. You don't have to do the work. You just have to monitor the app and the numbers and stuff like that. It's a different ball game, but things change. I mean, I think it was 2000. What was it? 2016 or 2017. I literally woke up after New Year's and I had an offer that was doing 6 figures a year just die. And it just after 13 after 13 years of running on autopilot, it just died. Died. Revenue wasn't half from December. February was half of January. March was half of February. And now it makes like $10 a month.
Wow.
It happens.
Yeah.
Internet changes. Sometimes things change so fast. And what changed in this case was the audience, matured. The source of leads that I was getting kind of died off. The rise of social media. And this was not a vertical or a niche or type of thing that was really social media friendly. And so that just killed it off. It had a good run, and that's it. So it's just, it's the internet. It happens.
Yeah. And I could tell you had a bit of passion when you were talking about, I'm just going to use the term, the ClickFunnels agencies, but the agencies that focus on high client acquisition and don't focus as much on the back end operations. So they have a huge churn, and then agencies like yours and mine spend 70% of their sales process in combating those past experiences. If someone is listening and they're, in a CMO position or they're interviewing email agencies, what are some key questions you feel like they should ask to make sure they're going to be working with somebody that actually gives a crap about their company?
I think really do some due diligence on the people. I think a lot of people just, have bought a course and just decided to start an agency, and that's like the thing to do. So, look at their experience. Number one, do some due diligence. Number two, talk to, previous clients, ask people in the industry. It's, believe it or not, it's still a small industry. It was much smaller when I started back in 2002 or 3. But now it's still a small industry, and everybody kind of knows everybody or knows somebody that knows somebody. And so really just ask around, and I think you'll really hear, maybe you'll hear something good or bad or this, that, the other about an agency, but, collectively, once you hear from a few people, you'll really get a good sense of that. The other thing is really looking at their clients. Are their clients similar to you? Right? Like, I chose an agency to work with, to do some outreach for us. And the only reason why I selected them was one of their previous clients was a close competitor to mine. But what I didn't look at was, I didn't look at the numbers in detail. And if I really looked at the numbers in detail, they only worked with this agency for a short period of time, which would lead you to believe that maybe it was unsuccessful, which it actually was unsuccessful. It was a shit show, to be honest with you.
Was this the one we talked about like a month ago?
Possibly.
Okay, yeah.
Possibly. I had 2 like really bad situations. The other thing I would tell you that I learned from I hired a LinkedIn agency like a year ago. If an agency has a non-disparagement clause in their agreement, don't sign it and run. What a non-disparagement clause essentially is you're not allowed to say anything online or post anything online or review, good or even if it's bad and it's honest, 100% honest, they can take you to court and litigate you for that review, even if it's honest. And in my case, it was a complete shit show. And I didn't post anything about it, didn't say anything about it on social media, obviously. But had I known that prior, there's not a chance in hell I would have worked with this agency, because I went back and looked and I noticed why there was not one negative review about this agency online because of that. And so that's a huge red flag. I would say trying to lock you into an agreement very quickly That's another huge one. We do everything month to month. We don't lock you into long-term contracts. So I think that's another huge one, because you really have to see if it's a good working relationship
Yeah.
on both sides right off the bat. If the agency you're working with comes out with these crazy ideas and you're like, it's not in tune or aligned with the brand or what you're doing, it doesn't make sense to continue working with them, right? But then if you're stuck with a 6-month or 12-month contract, you're hosed.
And on the same note, if you're the agency and you care about working with, and bringing good results, and you lock a client into a 12-month contract and it ends up being a bad situation from their end, you know what I mean? You want to make sure it's a good two-way door that way.
100%, because you don't want to bring all that added stress to your team,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff that you can't fulfill, or like a client that's just not a good fit. Maybe they're not ready yet, or it's too soon, or their stuff is just not there yet, optimized wise.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I know that's a issue a lot of businesses come across. Make sure too that the agency is looking at actually understanding your profitability and your numbers, and not just telling you that they're going to scale your business. Are they going to do it while you're remaining profitable? Is a good question to ask.
Yeah, I think another one is really looking at their projections for you. If somebody's giving you like specifics,
Yeah.
I would run.
Yeah.
I would like run so fast. What I do is I give like a range, a high end of the range and then a low end of the range. And I know, for example, in about 80 to 90% of the cases, it's going to fall within this range on the low end and on the high end. Sometimes it goes over, but it's like you never tell a client like higher than normal numbers are normal, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
those are like unicorn type of situations. And so really giving them a projection of a high end and the low end is a good way to kind of, forecast, without giving anything unrealistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I know Facebook ads, like you were saying earlier, changes every day. So telling someone you guarantee them 4x results or 5x results is very difficult unless you can see that they've trended that
Or
way.
you don't pay and work for free.
Yeah.
That's all the ads that's all the ads that we see on these things, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's taking the same course. Everybody's doing the same ad.
Yeah. Unless you audit it and are confident because for the past 3 years they've trended in that direction, then yeah. And it's discouraging when clients don't like that you don't quote them growth. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to get you 300x growth because you want a 2x ROA, but you've been at a 0.3 for the past 8 months. But at the same time, you got to stay in tune with what you know is realistic as you're going.
Yeah, I mean, you have to show your value all the time to the clients. You always have to communicate your value to them, and what you're doing to them, how much time you're spending, the results that they're getting. But I think it's really just doing it in a very honest way, a very transparent way, with not unrealistic goals, and just really laying out a path for them on how to get from A to Z to where we want to go, and what are the steps, what are the milestones that we're going to be doing to get there.
And Dave, I know last year your agency generated $42 million in total for all clients through email and SMS. So if you had to summarize everything we've discussed today into a single marketing mindset, what mindset should marketers or business owners have when it comes to using email and SMS marketing to drive sales?
Email is still your number one channel. SMS should be your number 3 channel. And people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And email and SMS, they're right on your phones. And those are the things that you do with people that you know, like, and trust. You send messages, you send emails, you respond back and forth. And so the more you can do that with your clients and prospects, the more you'll build that connection with them, and the more you'll stay top of mind, so that when they do need maybe a shirt or a sign or headphones, you are the top of mind. You are the brand that they remember.
100%. And for anyone listening that is at the stage of figuring out what they'd like to do in the marketing industry, what role or roles within marketing do you think will have the highest demand or opportunity in the next 3 to 5 years?
I would say anything related to AI at this point, whether it's using AI to write copy. You're seeing a huge shift right now in the copywriting space. With copywriters now almost being forced, to use Chat GPT or these tools, Jasper or what have you, or get left behind. We've completely transformed our copywriting division in the last 4 months, with this. So that would be the number one thing. I would say prompt engineers, like people that are very good at creating prompts for people in your company. That's going to be huge. You really learning how to use that tool in various ways. It's going to be the next mark. That's going to be a required necessity. So the faster you get up to speed on this AI and really how to use it, the faster ahead. To give you context, I mean, I run a company with 42 people, and I spend 2 to 3 hours every day I have blocked off right now to get up to speed. Everything that I learn in those 2 to 3 hours, I distill down into some, videos, prompts. I test it, and then share it with the team to go implement. And so that's the wave of the future right now.
Interesting. I totally agree with that. And for the last question, tell us, where can listeners connect with you and learn more about your agency?
The place I'm most active on is Facebook. So I would say, it's facebook.com/Dave Miz. I'm on LinkedIn also, but don't really use it too much. Haven't really found the flow yet with LinkedIn. Instagram's pretty much a shit show. So I would avoid that. But so yeah, good old Facebook. Believe it or not, man, good old Facebook.
There you go. Awesome. Well, Dave, I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome.
Thank you.